After returning from a week-long international trip, I was taken aback by an unexpected call from my mother-in-law, Judy. Her voice was filled with excitement as she announced that we had a windfall of $52,000 that she had discovered. I felt a wave of confusion wash over me, trying to recall any scenario where such a significant amount could have come into play. As a freelance jewelry designer, I maintain a savings account for emergencies, but I certainly don't keep large sums of cash on hand. My bank card, which is securely kept with me, isn't accessible to anyone else. Judy, sounding triumphant, explained that she had found the money in the sideboard drawer and believed it was acceptable to take it since we were doing well financially. Before I could ask for clarification, she thanked me and hinted at needing my financial assistance in the future before abruptly hanging up. I was left bewildered, grappling with the mystery of the supposed missing $52,000. This confusion lingered until my husband, Edward, returned home from work and explained that there had been a significant misunderstanding. A month later, Judy inundated me with phone calls. At first, I ignored her persistent ringing, but eventually, the constant notifications compelled me to answer. Her voice was heavy with accusations, blaming me for negligence. She felt wronged, but to me, she was simply facing the fallout of her own assumptions. Edward and I lead busy lives, immersed in running my expanding jewelry design business. Early in our marriage, his stable corporate job supported us while my design gigs were more sporadic. However, when my business began to flourish around the time I turned 35, demanding more of my time and energy, Edward made a bold decision to leave his promising career and join me. Together, we secured contracts with prestigious international brands, elevating both our careers and personal lives. Yet, with success came new challenges, particularly in relation to Judy, who lived alone in the family home. She often perceived our lives through a lens of envy, making financial demands under the assumption that we were thriving. "You always seem to be living so lavishly. I'm jealous," she would remark, while attending product launches and dinners with executives is part of my job. Judy viewed these commitments as indulgences. Her financial requests became increasingly personal, even asking for money to host a party. Despite the pressures and costs tied to maintaining our business image, these situations highlighted the complexities of balancing family expectations with professional success. The glamorous life we seemed to lead was not a choice, but a necessity for our business. Judy frequently expressed her envy and sarcasm regarding our lifestyle, misunderstanding the true nature of our expenses. "You're always dressed beautifully and dining at upscale places. I envy you," she would say. Despite my attempts to clarify our situation, Edward, being her son, sometimes succumbed to her financial pleas, believing it was a small price to pay for peace. "If giving her a little money keeps her quiet, then it's worth it," he would rationalize, finding it easier to placate her than to deal with potential conflicts. However, Judy's demands only intensified over time. Recently, she requested a new dress for an upcoming event and insisted on a specific expensive outfit along with a matching handbag, leaving us feeling exasperated by her constant requests. To address Judy's financial habits, Edward had previously set her up with a credit card, instructing her to use it for personal expenses. Initially, she overspent dramatically, and despite repeated warnings from Edward, she continued her extravagant spending. This pattern of financial demands became exhausting for both of us as we struggled to balance supporting family while ensuring the integrity and sustainability of our business. I recently found a stunning ring that I couldn't resist purchasing, though I regretted not discussing it with Judy beforehand. Unfortunately, the bill was exorbitant, and Judy acknowledged the financial strain her unchecked spending was causing once she became aware of it. Concerned about the situation, we decided it would be best to reclaim the card if her spending remained unrestrained. "We simply can't cover these costs," we explained. Although the credit card was in Judy's name, Edward managed and paid the bills. She seemed to treat it like an endless resource, not fully grasping that every purchase would eventually need to be paid off. Lacking the immediate consequences of spending her own money, she used the card freely. To rein in her spending, Edward decided to impose a limit on the card, a decision that led to Judy storming into our home in frustration when she found she couldn't afford her shopping. "What the heck? I couldn't pay for my shopping the other day," she exclaimed. Edward, striving to maintain some level of peace, explained calmly, "We had to lower your monthly limit because your excessive spending was straining our finances. But you two are still dressing up and going to fancy places. How is what I'm doing any different?" Judy protested, viewing our work as purely recreational. "That's part of our job, Judy. If that's a job, then what I'm doing isn't any different," Edward replied, trying to bridge the gap between her perceptions and the reality of our professional obligations. Judy argued that it was unfair for her not to partake in the glamorous events we attended. While it's true that our work involves attending product launches and parties at luxurious venues, those were strictly professional commitments, not leisurely outings. Despite her misunderstandings, setting a spending limit on Judy's credit card brought some semblance of peace to our lives. Occasionally, she would voice her grievances to Edward during her visits, but overall, life continued without major interruptions. As the year drew to a close, an exhilarating opportunity presented itself. A foreign brand manufacturer proposed that we expand our business by relocating our base overseas. I was thrilled at the prospect of elevating my status to that of a top-tier designer, and Edward, ever supportive as my manager, was fully on board. "It's a chance we have to take," he encouraged. However, the idea of moving abroad brought with it a new concern. Judy, given her past behavior, we worried she might insist on accompanying us. While the idea of living internationally was appealing, the thought of managing Judy's demands in a new country felt daunting. When we shared our plans with her, her reaction was just as we had feared. "I want to come too," she declared, assuming our relocation would be an extended holiday. Edward tried to clarify the situation. "We're going there for work. It won't be as leisurely as you think." But Judy remained skeptical, accusing us. "You're trying to trick me. You plan to live even more lavishly there without me watching." "We're not moving there permanently. We'll come back after our work is done," I reassured her. But she retorted, "You're saying that, but you're planning to leave me behind. Aren't you exhausted by these endless arguments?" Both Edward and I were weary of the back and forth. In an attempt to compromise, Edward suggested, "Okay, we can't take you with us, but how about we pay for a week-long trip for you instead?" Judy perked up at this. "Really? Are you sure? We'll cover your flight and hotel, but you'll need to manage the rest," Edward affirmed. This momentarily satisfied her, but our peace was short-lived. A few days later, while Edward was busy arranging our overseas move, Judy dropped by unexpectedly. "Hey, Catherine," she said, her tone eager, "but I want to shop over there too. Can you give me some money?" "What about the card that Edward gave you?" I asked, knowing she had a designated credit card for such expenses. Judy's expression shifted. "That's the thing. Edward finally took it away from me the other day," she admitted. It seemed she had been reprimanded for her overspending, and anticipating the financial challenges of dealing with different currency rates overseas, Edward had confiscated the card. "I don't have that kind of money on hand either. I can't give you money without Edward's approval," she continued. "Can you ask him?" I suggested, knowing Edward's clear stance on such matters, but Judy quickly dismissed the idea. "It's no use asking him. That's why I'm asking you," she insisted, her voice laced with frustration. Despite my reluctance, Judy somehow managed to embark on a 12-day international trip, which I assumed Edward had funded. Upon her return, she called me, bubbling with excitement. "I'm back, and it was so fun," she gushed, sharing stories of her sightseeing and dining adventures. details I hadn't sought. I overbought souvenirs. I couldn't fit them in my suitcase, so I had them shipped here. Can't wait for them to arrive. That's nice, I replied, trying to maintain a neutral tone, though I felt a bit overwhelmed by her exuberance and the implicit costs. Thanks to the money you saved up, I had a blast, she added, confused and alarmed. I responded, saved up money? What are you talking about? I found it in your house's sideboard drawer, she explained, claiming she had taken $52,000. I was stunned. Why would such a large sum of money be stashed at home, especially not in a place as accessible as a drawer? Confused, I confronted her. I'm not sure what money you're referring to, but taking it from our house without permission is theft, even if you're family. Do you understand that? Judy's response was unsettlingly nonchalant. That's why I'm telling you now. I used it. Consider it a post-factum report, she declared, showing no remorse. I was taken aback. I have no idea where this money came from, but if you took it and spent it without telling anyone, that's a crime. And if it was something Edward set aside for an important transaction, then it's even more serious, I explained, trying to grasp the magnitude of the situation. Surprisingly, there hadn't been any obvious disruptions in our business finances while she was away. You two live so extravagantly, so why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your son. It's not a big deal, right? She rationalized, displaying a sense of entitlement that left me speechless. It's one thing to ask for help from your son and his wife, but this isn't how you should behave after taking someone else's money, I replied, still in disbelief. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip, but we need to take this issue seriously. When Judy casually mentioned that you gave her $52,000, she added confidently, I'll talk to Edward about it when he gets back. He'll understand, since I'm his mother, and to him, $52,000 is just a drop in the bucket. I was shocked by her cavalier attitude and the misquoted amount, but I promised to share her perspective with Edward. That evening, a visibly distressed Edward came home. Catherine, did you see the money I left in the drawer? He asked urgently. I took it out from the bank 3 weeks ago, and now it's missing. Wasn't it risky to store such a large sum so insecurely? I needed that cash for a crucial payment, he continued, clearly worried. Do you know anything about it? It suddenly clicked. Judy's call about enjoying $52,000 was referencing this money. Edward, Judy called earlier thanking us for $52,000, saying she had a great time using it, I explained, still grappling with confusion. Edward sighed, his expression turning grave as he provided more context. After I lowered the limit on Judy's credit card, she started secretly acquiring money through other credit sources. I discovered her accumulating debt and confiscated all her cards. I withdrew that cash to clear her debts without affecting our business accounts or complicating our financial records. This was also intended as a parting gesture, since we were preparing to move abroad and wouldn't be around to manage her financial issues in person. A month has passed, and with the move coming up, I haven't been able to focus on Judy's calls, I admitted. When I finally answered, Judy's tone was desperate. Why aren't you answering? I've called so many times, she lamented, on the verge of tears. I'm sorry, I've been busy with the move. What's going on? I asked gently. It's overwhelming. They're demanding payments every day. It's too much to handle, Judy confessed, clearly stressed. Have you tried reaching out to Edward first? I suggested, hoping she had made an effort to resolve this with him. He's not taking my calls, Catherine. You're my last hope. Please, can you help? Judy pleaded. In that moment, the gravity of Judy's situation hit me hard. Her financial mismanagement had spiraled into a serious crisis, and now, with Edward cutting her off, she was turning to me for support. As we prepared for our new life abroad, addressing Judy's financial turmoil had become an urgent priority, demanding our immediate attention before we could fully embrace the exciting opportunities that lay ahead. I was taken aback by Edward's unexpected approach to dealing with his mother. If he had directly used the allocated funds to settle Judy's debts, we could have avoided the relentless stream of collection letters and persistent calls from creditors. Instead, Judy found herself drowning in financial demands, a scenario that felt like something out of a dramatic movie, one I never expected to witness firsthand. At the end of our conversation, Judy looked at me with desperation. "Please talk to Edward for me," she pleaded. Despite the pressing demands of our business expansion and the tight financial situation that made it impossible for us to extend further help, especially considering Judy's history of mismanaging the funds meant for her debts, I promised to speak with Edward. When Edward came home, I laid out Judy's situation for him. His response was a mixture of exhaustion and resignation. I had plans to settle everything before we left, but she wasted that chance, he said, his tone lacking any warmth. The funds that were supposed to free Judy from debt had been squandered on a lavish vacation, leaving no room for excuses. As Judy's frantic calls continued, I reluctantly supported Edward's decision to block her number. A part of me wanted to help, after all. She was Edward's mother, but his choice to distance himself from the situation left me feeling helpless. Amid the chaos of packing for our move, I stumbled upon another troubling update. Judy was forced to sell her house to manage her debts, revealing even more undisclosed liabilities. The total amount was so substantial that even the sale of her property wouldn't cover it all. The loss of the family home, where Edward had grown up, weighed heavily on both of us. "Hey, our family home is gone. Are you okay with that?" I asked, sensing the melancholy in his voice. "How can I be okay? But there's nothing we can do," Edward replied, his voice heavy with sorrow. The loss resonated with me, echoing the pain I felt when I lost my parents' home at a young age. As we wrestled with these deep emotions and the daunting task of packing, we came to the realization that some situations were simply beyond our control. It was time to shift our focus to the future and prepare for our new life abroad. The bittersweet reality of losing a family home struck a profound chord within me. Watching Edward navigate this loss was deeply affecting. It wasn't just about the physical loss of a building, but about losing a piece of our shared history and emotional sanctuary, all while Judy, his mother, remained intertwined in our lives. The blend of loss and displacement under such painful circumstances was indescribable, highlighting an impact that went far deeper than the loss of mere bricks and mortar. It felt like a piece of our very essence was slipping away. Amidst the whirlwind of our new life, Judy was now living in a modest apartment, grappling with the everyday challenges of her overwhelming debts. At her age, finding part-time work posed significant obstacles. Job opportunities for seniors were scarce, often physically demanding and poorly compensated. This stark contrast to her previous lifestyle, marked by financial freedom and unchecked spending, evoked a complicated mix of emotions. Though it was tough to witness her struggle, it served as a reminder that her predicament stemmed largely from her own financial missteps. Life, as it often does, taught us through Judy's situation that actions have consequences, and financial responsibility is crucial at every stage. Meanwhile, in our new setting, our business was flourishing beyond expectations. The move overseas thrust our brand into the international spotlight, generating a surge of inquiries and collaboration offers from around the globe. Each email and phone call brought the promise of further expansion, an exhilarating yet demanding experience. However, amidst our professional success, the pressure of relentless schedules weighed heavily on our personal lives. The dream of expanding our family felt like a distant goal, one we hoped to revisit once the immediate demands subsided. Edward, managing multiple roles from logistics to client relations, felt the strain particularly keenly. As partners in both life and business, we often found ourselves reflecting on our future and priorities, searching for ways to harmonize our professional ambitions with our personal desires. From the window of our apartment, gazing out at the cityscape aglow with neon lights, I contemplated the stark contrast between this bustling, relentless metropolis that was now our home and the quiet, stable life we had left behind. The complexity of our new life was exhilarating yet daunting, filled with endless tasks and decisions that tested us at every turn. Reflecting on Judy's situation and the broader implications of our family and financial choices, I recognized how deeply our decisions are woven into the fabric of our lives. Every choice, every sacrifice, and every success not only shaped our immediate circumstances but also the legacy we were building together. As we embarked on this new chapter, we remained acutely aware of the delicate balance between achieving professional success and nurturing the relationships that defined who we were beyond our business accomplishments. The journey was a continuous learning curve, underscoring the significance of each choice and its lasting impact on our future.